Now, once upon a time, many, many, many years ago, there was a boy named Sam who was 6 years old. And Sam lived in a town way high up in the mountains. Now, Sam loved to play with construction toys. He loved toys that were bulldozers, that were dump trucks, that were motor graders, and trucks of all kinds. And he had a patch of dirt out behind the house where he and Dad would play building roads and moving dirt around with the toy bulldozers and front end loaders, and he had lots of toys, and he just loved it. Now, one of the things Sam liked to ask Dad to do was to drive past the junkyard in town. And in the junkyard were all kinds of rusted old cars and rusted old trucks and some machinery, front end loaders. But in the corner, the piece of equipment that Sam loved was an enormous bulldozer. And the engine of the bulldozer was all covered with oil. And one of its tracks was broken, and it was sort of tilted to one side. But Sam, it was a huge bulldozer, and Sam loved that bulldozer. Well, Dad had a friend, an old man, whose name was Ed. And Ed used to come to Sam's house to talk to Dad about football. Well, Sam always talked to Ed and showed him his construction projects out back. One day, Sam said to Ed, "What is that huge bulldozer in the junkyard?" And Ed got a big smile on his face and he said, "That is Mighty Jake. He was the biggest bulldozer in the area for years and years, and I drove him. I cleared roads into the mountains. I cleared mountainsides for years, and I pushing rocks and all kinds of stuff." And he said, finally, after many, many years, all that work, Mighty Jake had a problem. He lost power because he started losing oil all over his engine, and he finally got so old that he couldn't push very well, and we pulled him in to the junkyard and parked him. Well, not long after that, there was a huge, enormous, gigantic storm one night. Thunder and lightning and rain poured down, and it was a huge storm. And the next morning, the people in the town found out that the road from the valley, which came up to them and brought food and so forth, had a problem because there was a bridge that the river had overflowed and knocked out a bridge. And the road from their town to a teeny tiny little village high up in the mountains had been blocked by an enormous landslide where dirt and boulders off of the mountain had completely covered the road, and there was no way to get through. And Sam heard his dad on the phone asking the people down in the valley, "Can't you get some construction equipment up here? We need to clear the road to that little village." And Dad said, "There's no bridge. The bridge washed out. We couldn't get any equipment up here." And he hung up the phone with a sad look on his face. And Sam said to Dad, "Dad, they can't get equipment up here?" And Dad said, "Nope." And Sam said, "What if we fixed Mighty Jake and used him to clear the road into that little village. And Dad said, that's an idea. I'm going to call Ed. So he called Ed, and they talked on the phone, and Ed said, I'm going to get a couple of mechanics to come and look at Mighty Jake. It might work. And so Ed went and found a couple of mechanics, and Ed and Dad and Sam and the mechanics went to the junkyard, and the mechanics looked at Mighty Jake, and they said, we might be able to fix that engine, and I think we could weld the track together. And Ed said, I think I have a seat in my house from my construction days because the seat on Mighty Jake is completely broken up. And so they got a lowboy, which is a trailer for carrying big construction equipment, and they got another smaller tractor, and they managed to pull Mighty Jake on the lowboy and take him off to the mechanic shop. Well, for 3 days, Ed and Dad and the mechanics worked on Mighty Jake while Sam watched. And the mechanics welded his track together and put it back on so he had one track on each side. And they found how to fix the oil leak and took the engine apart, fixed the oil leak, and wiped the engine clean. And they got a starter motor because the starter motor was broken. They got a starter motor from a front end loader and installed that on Mighty Jake. And Ed brought a seat from his house and installed it on Mighty Jake. And then Ed and Dad painted Mighty Jake bright yellow the way he used to be. And at the end of the 3rd day, Ed climbed up into the driver's seat, and the mechanic said, give her a try, Ed. And Ed turned the key, and the starter motor choked, 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 and the big engine turned over, and black smoke came out of the smokestack. Puff, 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 boom, 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 boom. Roar! And Mighty Jake's engine came to life, and smoke came out, and everyone cheered. And Ed said, I think in the morning we can go up and start working on the landslide. So the next day, very early in the morning, the mechanics had the lowboy ready, and Ed climbed up onto the seat way high up on Mighty Jake, started the engine, and drove Mighty Jake up on the lowboy. And Dad drove the truck that pulled the lowboy, and they went up to the big landslide. And Ed backed Mighty Jake off the lowboy and started pushing boulders and dirt and everything off the road, backwards and forwards all day long. And at the end of the day, the road was clear, and some food trucks went up to the teeny tiny village, and everyone cheered. Well, they brought Mighty Jake back to town, and Ed backed her off the lowboy and parked Mighty Jake in all its new shiny yellow paint right in front of his house. And all the town people came by to admire Mighty Jake. And Ed came over to Sam's house that night, and he said, Sam, it was your idea to fix Mighty Jake so we could clear the road. I am very proud of you. And that is the end of the story. Did you like it? What was your favorite part? Do you think you could use crayons or your words to describe your favorite part? I bet you could. Why don't you try? We'll see you the next time.